Hi, my name is Valerie Anderson, and today I'm going to share with you about my internship that I just completed. I am a marriage and family studies major at BYU, Idaho, and I just completed my internship this past week through Teen Intervene, which is an intervention program through our local school district. So here's an overview of the Teen Intervene program. It is an evidence-based program for youth ages 12 to 19 who have experienced mild to moderate problems associated with alcohol or drugs. So it's intended to serve as a brief intervention program, basically. Teen Intervene integrates stages of change model, motivational interviewing, and cognitive behavioral techniques in order to help teens to reduce and ultimately eliminate their substance use. The program consists of 3 to 4 one-on-one sessions. So these are not group sessions. They very much have a counseling session type feel. Each session includes completion of surveys and other exercises, the setting of goals, the weighing of pros and cons, of using substances versus reducing or quitting substances, the pros and cons of reducing versus, lots of reflective opportunities, I guess you could say, and of course encouraging that possibility for change. How did I find my internship? It was offered through actually my local school district where my children attend. San Juan happened to be recruiting their prevention program interns at the same time that I was seeking an internship opportunity. So it was win-win for both of us. I'd previously been seeking opportunities through the Sacramento Unified School District, but I had a friend who worked for San Juan, and she knew the prevention program specialist, Erica, who turned out to be my supervisor, and she put us in touch. So it was great. So what were my responsibilities? I maintained 4 high school sites, so I was assigned to work at 4 different high schools. There I coordinated, promoted, and facilitated one-on-one sessions with students, freshman through senior. And so the way it works is these students had an incident that had been reported where they were caught either possessing or using drugs or alcohol, vaping, one of the above on campus, and their name was then placed on a list, and this list of names automatically puts them into this program. And so I was notified, and then I would pull them in and meet with them one-on-one. And if they agreed to move forward, which most of them did, we would have our 3 to 4 sessions over the next 3 to 4 weeks. They were given an opt-out form at the very beginning where they could go home and talk to mom and dad about it. And if, mom and dad felt like they didn't want them to be missing class, or they didn't want them in the program for whatever reason, they could sign that and bring it back to me. It did happen a couple of times, but in most cases, the students didn't really want their parents to know that they had been placed in this program. So they were pretty compliant generally. Let's see, collect and submit. I'm just trying to see where I was. I collected and submitted weekly student data to my supervisor. There was a lot of paperwork, and I had to educate myself with videos and readings that were provided by the school district. But there's so much information out there. There are YouTube videos, there's stuff on Netflix, you name it. And so I was never in need of new information to gather. And I also assisted with a couple of events and a project at the end of my time. I finished meeting with students when the school year ended, but at that point I hadn't quite reached the 160-hour mark, and so my supervisor did give me another project to work on where I was kind of doing some research for her for a brochure. So there was that. Here are a couple of events that I attended. These related both to vaping, and we had a couple students who had been involved in marijuana use who actually guest spoke at one of these events, and at the other one, a couple men from Stanford University came and spoke. So really effective events. I enjoyed these, and of course they helped me gain hours, but they also just helped to educate me further on these topics. So how did I benefit the sites at which I served? So I would say that I was dependable and I was prompt, always informing my supervisor and school staff when I would arrive outside of my normal allotted time. It happened a couple times. Life happens. I'm a mom. My daughter got really sick near the end of my time as an intern, and so I had to rearrange my schedule a few times. I maintained my intern binder and lots of paperwork. I always had paperwork to catch up on. I strive to build up my students and help them believe in themselves and in the possibility of change. That was a big one. A lot of them came in just so used to being told all the things they were doing wrong. And so we both found it to be very encouraging when I could just repeatedly tell them the good that I saw and the potential and the power really that they had to change the cycle. I also I mentioned this earlier, I supported and attended community events. So obviously the schools benefited from that because I was there to help. And as far as how I benefited personally, I developed character and courage through repeatedly stepping outside my comfort zone and discovering things of which I did not realize I was capable. Despite this being a drug intervention program, the majority of my sessions with students were spent talking about their home life, relationship issues with their parents, their own personal struggles, their depression, anxiety, anger issues, their fears, their weaknesses, and also their goals and dreams. And that was just really, really satisfying for me and for them, I hope. My eyes were also open to the legitimate struggles of today's youth, some of which I just mentioned, and the reality of teen addiction, which is very real, and its various stages, and of course drug and alcohol effects on the developing brain, which is also quite horrific. My heart was softened, and I feel like I developed a greater tolerance for those who struggle with substance abuse, as well as greater empathy for those striving to withstand the temptations that surround them or overcome the addictions that they've already developed, because every student came to me in a different place. Some had just had a one-time incident and didn't want to ever do it again. Others had been smoking pot daily for 2 years. So it totally varied, and their home life varied, and that, of course, dictated a lot. So there was that. And, of course, it helped me. I'm a parent myself. I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, and my daughter's going to be in high school in another year, and so I was really grateful for the opportunity because it allowed me to kind of see some of the things that she's going to be dealing with in another year. So connections. This was a hard one to answer. It's hard to narrow this down because there were so many connections between my internship and the coursework that I've studied over the last few years. But one thing that just kept coming back to me was from the Anatomy of Peace. This is a book that I had to read in a parenting class I took a few semesters back. And in it talks about having either a heart at peace or a heart at war, and how that kind of dictates how we see, perceive, and treat others. So it focuses on the idea that the way we treat others is often based on how we perceive them. Do we see an individual as an object or as a human being? Chances are, if we view someone as an object, we are not going to treat them with as much respect or dignity, whereas, when we see someone as an actual human being, we are much more likely to show kindness and respect. So here it says on the screen, a heart at peace sees people as people. So when we feel good about ourselves, when we're at peace with ourselves, generally speaking, that's going to be reflected in our behavior toward others. We're generally going to treat others with that same respect and peace that we feel, Whereas when we have a heart at war, when we are not at peace with ourselves, when we are struggling with some type of internal battle, chances are we are going to treat others less kindly, I guess you could say, and we're going to probably see them more as objects than actual people. So until we're at peace with ourselves, we can't really be at peace with others. I guess it is possible, but the whole theme of the book kind of focused around this concept, and I think that it's really valuable. Every day, with this internship, I was faced with a choice of either viewing my students as vulnerable human beings who were just trying to get through high school, or as impulsive, irresponsible, reckless teenagers or objects, ultimately. So, as family life educators, we are always going to be dealing with sticky situations and challenging people. So it's just the nature of this field. So this concept of viewing others as people rather than objects, I believe, is crucial if we are going to be effective in our pursuits. So I just really liked that concept, and I thought that it applied really well. So would I recommend this internship to others? Yes, I would. If I think there are some stipulations, because of the so much one-on-one interaction, just kind of the intimate nature of the job. I think that any intern would have to have some strong verbal skills and also be comfortable with that type of setting, meeting with complete strangers, students, teenagers, and talking about kind of uncomfortable stuff. So I think that anyone considering this internship would just want to first take all that into account. Other thoughts that I had, the ability to work independently, obviously communicate, effectively, work independently. My supervisor was awesome. She trusted me with my work. She just let me do my thing. She did not micromanage me. She checked in frequently, but I never felt like I had to answer to her or check in with her every other day. But if you are not easily, self-motivated, that might be a problem. Because I really had to keep up on things. I had to keep myself motivated. Proficient computer skills, obviously that's important because, being a BYU Idaho student, that's a given. You have to be proficient at these things. But in this internship, there was a lot of data entry I had to do, and a weekly timesheet that I had to fill out for my supervisor. The ability to respond or adjust to difficult situations. I think this is a big one. Again, it kind of goes back to communication skills. These students, they came in all different forms and in all different moods. And, I'd have one who was really cooperative the first couple sessions, and then boom, something would happen. And our third session was just a disaster. Like, they would just be closed off and unwilling to talk through things. And so you just kind of I never knew really what I was going to get from any one of my students, and that could be a challenge. So I had to constantly be ready to respond to that and know how to adjust accordingly. I think also it helps to have a basic understanding of vaping, marijuana use, drugs, alcohol, addiction, kind of all of those things. And I learned a lot as I went. I learned a lot from watching videos and reading material that was provided to me. But the first couple weeks, I really felt kind of lost because these students would start talking to me about things that they did, habits they had, and they would throw out terms like dabbing and wax and this and that. And I was just like, I don't know what that means. And so I had to, I really had to do my research. So having that understanding can be really helpful up front. And then hours, I averaged about 20 hours because I did this in a more condensed period of time. But really anywhere from 13 to 21 is about average for this internship. So again, my supervisor was amazing. I really hit it off well with her. We worked well together. Her information is here if anybody is interested. I'm really grateful for this opportunity. I think that I really grew and developed a lot. I learned a lot about myself through the process, and I would highly recommend it. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation.